To another episode of Live Chat with James. It's nice to be here once again. I took part of last week off, so I'm glad to have you back with me. On tonight's episode, coming to you from the ProPix TV studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, we're going to talk about two major disasters, and one of them being Donald J. Trump and the other one being Fyre Fest. And it's amazing that both are out in a version 2.0 and seem to be bigger disasters than the first Trump presidency and the first Fyre Fest in the history of the U.S. These two issues seem to be, as I said, disasters for the record books. So let's start out and talk about what we have here for the Trump second term. As much as a disaster as that is, let's take a look. And it's a bit informational and a bit satirical, so I hope that you find the humor in it, because hey, it's the best way to take a look at Donald Trump is with a light sense of humor, because he's the biggest joke running. So in the event that political scientists once referred to as both statistically improbable and diplomatically catastrophic, Donald J. Trump was reelected to serve as the 47th president of the United States. What followed so far isn't just a second term. It is what many around the world are now calling the Great American Regression. Now, as we talk about this, the story of Trump's second term as seen by the world, we'll start out with the global gasp. And that was in November, on a crisp November night when the results came in. In Paris, the Eiffel Tower dimmed in quiet protest. In Berlin, chancellor candidates were seen pouring schnapps into coffee. And meanwhile, here in Canada, the immigration website crashed again. This time, not from Americans fleeing, but Canadians researching on how to build a wall. Leaders from every continent issued statements, most of them just 3 words: "Not again, America." In Beijing, Xi Jinping laughed so hard during a security briefing he fell off his chair. In the UK, King Charles was overheard asking if America was still technically an ally or just an overgrown Florida. This is the question to ponder. Now, the domestic chaos and international ripples within days of the inauguration, which was smaller than 2017's, despite what he claims. The new administration repealed 112 executive orders, 37 climate protections, and 36 common sense policies. He renamed the Pentagon Trump Defense Force and unveiled plans to build a luxury resort at the edge of the Grand Canyon, calling it nature's Trump Tower. And remember, this is part satirical and part news, so again, just find it where you will. International allies, meanwhile, watched in horror as the United States withdrew from NATO yet again, to rejoin it briefly after a Gulf meeting and then left again via tweet at 3 a.m. Now, as we know, the NATO secretary is walking out of his meetings going, "I just can't. No more. Anymore. I can't do it." So in any event, though, the markets took a hit in what was dubbed Trump Slump 2.0. The Dow plunged 4,000 points overnight when the president tweeted, "Bitcoin is fake. The real money is megabucks." He then tried to launch a new crypto coin backed by stakes, ties, and NFTs of his face. Japan's Nikkei froze. London's FTSE vanished entirely, just stopped reporting. And in a dramatic moment, India's Prime Minister simply turned off his webcam during a G20 call. Now, let's take a look at diplomacy Trump style. International diplomacy, once again, is a delicate dance. And it was now a WWE pay-per-view event he called Trudeau Canada's pretty boy, Macron Mr. Mustard, and told the Australian Prime Minister that his country was just the UK's leftovers. Relations with North Korea, well, he reinstated the love letters and nominated Kim Jong-un for a Nobel Peace Prize. Meanwhile, Putin received an open invitation to Mar-a-Lago described as "bring vodka, no shirts." The State Department officials weeping quietly into their palms. The Trump administration has become an environmental apocalypse, fast-tracked. He signed an order and, Trump's administration's first environmental act rebranding climate change as God's sauna. He signed an order allowing coal mining in Yellowstone, fracking near the Statue of Liberty, and declared wildfires in California to be fake news started by electric car communists. Brazil's Bolsonaro, inspired by the move, tried to name a new Amazon highway Trump Route 666 before being blocked by indigenous leaders and common sense. Now, the cultural impact, or aftermath if you wish. Hollywood went into hiding. SNL tried to parody the new term but found reality was already too absurd. Late night hosts just stared into cameras in silence for entire episodes. Books were banned, then unbanned, then burned, then reprinted with only one chapter, How Trump Saved History. Meanwhile, TikTok was banned for being too Chinese, reinstated when Trump's grandkids complained, and banned again after a dance challenge made fun of his tie. Children crying as Sesame Street was replaced by Mega Street. Let's take a look at resistance and rebellion, because mass protests erupted worldwide. In Sweden, teenagers built an app that blocked all U.S. news. In South Africa, murals of the Statue of Liberty crying were painted on city walls. And in South Korea, K-pop fans staged a 24-hour virtual sit-in on White House servers. Inside the United States, what began as rebelling? In the U.S., states began rebelling. California and New York declaring themselves decency zones. While Vermont passed legislation recognizing Canada as its emergency government. Vermont governor should be out there waving a Canadian flag and whispering, "Please take us, eh?" The unexpected twist, though, is but just as the world seemed on the brink of a total collapse, something unexpected happened. A unified global effort emerged, not against each other, but against absurdity. Youth led the charge. Scientists, journalists, activists, and even former reality TV stars banded together to say enough. They built platforms for truth, voted in droves, and reminisced and reminded everyone watching that democracies, no matter how shaky, still had a pulse. Barely, but still had a pulse. Now, the warning from the future is simple. Trump's second term may go down in history as a cautionary tale, a blend of reality TV, late-stage capitalism, and historical whiplash. To some, he was a hero. To others, a punchline. But to the world, he was a warning. Now, in the end, democracies are not broken by one man alone, but silence. Very, very deep silence. And apathy. And too many people treating politics like a game show. And while the world watched in disbelief, it also remembered one crucial truth. The future is still unwritten, if we choose to write it. This has been a global fallout. Trump's second term, as seen by the world here on ProPix TV and Live Chat with James. Now, let's take a look at the other U.S. disaster that is the Fyre Fest 2.0. Again, just as catastrophic and even worse, because we saw the first version and the first iteration, both of Trump's presidency and of Fyre Fest 1. And it, of course, is both chalking down to be historic moments of embarrassment, humiliation, and disgust by America, for America, and against America, depending on how you look at it. Now, let's face it, Fyre Fest 2, the sequel, is one that nobody asked for. Tonight, we're going to bring you a special report on what many are calling Fyre Fest 2, an ill-fated revival from the infamous music festival that became one of the most catastrophic event failures in modern history. This time, the chaos is unfolding in Mexico, just like Trump's presidency and his tariffs. What was supposed to be a redemption story for convicted fraudster Billy McFarland is rapidly spiraling into a familiar nightmare. And here's what we know. Tropical dreams, luxury villas, superstar performances, gourmet cuisine, at least that was the promise again. This month, attendees began arriving in Mexico for what's being billed as a reborn Fyre Festival. Marketed as a once-in-a-lifetime exclusive experience on the beach, tickets range from hundreds of thousands of dollars, promos hinted at partnerships, headliners, and redemption. But what did they get, or what are they expecting? Incomplete accommodations, logistical chaos, no clear lineup, and haunting sense of deja vu. There is literally nothing set up, no music, no food, no tents, a lot of confusion. People are trying to figure out what's going on as tickets have been pulled from the internet. You can no longer buy them. And the Mexicans are saying that it is just a bunch of chaos that's not even happening. Now, if this story sounds all too familiar, it's because it is. To understand what's happening now, we have to revisit. So here we go. In 2017, entrepreneur Billy McFarland and rapper Ja Rule launched into a luxury music festival in the Bahamas. Marketed with help from top influencers and supermodels, Fyre Festival promised A-listers, villas, yacht parties, and high-end cuisine. The reality? Disaster. When guests arrived, they found emergency tents, boxed lunches, and zero infrastructure. Performers pulled out, flights were canceled. Some guests were stranded for days, and the lawsuits piled up, and eventually so did criminal charges. Now, Billy McFarland was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison for wire fraud and defrauding investors out of over $26 million. He served 4 before being released in 2022, and many assumed that was the end of the Fyre Fest saga. But shit, they were wrong. Rising from the ashes or fanning the flames. Fresh out of prison, McFarland launched into a media blitz, teasing new ventures and insisting that he was a changed man. In 2023, he dropped the bombshell that Fyre Fest 2 was happening. This time, is it going to be different? We're going to be delivering this time, he stated. Tickets for the first pre-sale round sold out in 24 hours, despite no lineups, no venue details, and vague promises. The only confirmed location was somewhere in Mexico. But as the date approaches, warning signs have begun to surface, and now they have been more than warning signs. The truth is slapping people in the face as hard as Will Smith at the Oscars. Now, by late March 2025, attendees still hadn't received finalized travel or accommodation details from those who have paid online and gotten these packages. Whispers of a repeat failure turned into screams online as people began arriving in Mexico, only to find nothing so far. As we approach again, still there's nothing going on. The people in Mexico are saying that there is no such event, that it's not happening, and that this is just another massive scam. So they literally don't have rooms for people. Some people are probably going to end up sleeping on the beach at this point because they may not want to cancel their tickets that they've bought separately from the passes for Fyre Fest, and they don't want to waste their vacation, even though it appears that Fyre Fest will not happen. Now, local authorities have since begun investigating. No permits are filed with the tourism board. Several vendors claim they haven't received deposits. Promised performers, well, that's a joke because we haven't even seen the lineup or heard of anything, and we're very close to the to day zero. Now, silent or denying all involvement altogether? Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what comes out and who's going to react. We know of DJs and others that have definitely outright refused to have any part of this event, and of course there may be others who have behind the scenes agreed to something if it comes through, but we obviously don't believe that it will. Now, multiple class action lawsuits are already expected in the U.S. and Mexico. The Federal Trade Commission is reporting monitoring the situation, and while McFarland hasn't been charged yet, legal experts say it's just a matter of time. Now, given McFarland's previous conviction, even the appearance of impropriety could land him back behind bars, especially if funds are misused or misrepresented, and that is something that we will be watching very closely. On social media, the backlash is relentless. Hashtag FyreFest2, McFraud, hashtag Burned Again have all been trending for days. Now, former Fyre Fest attendee said, I still haven't seen a dollar from the settlement. To see this happening again, it's outrageous. Now, Fyre Fest 2 may be the most publicized event failure of the year when the date comes and goes, but it also reflects deeper issues. From influencer culture and blind trust in online branding to the need for better oversight in event planning and crowdfunding. Now, experts are talking about the influencer economy and online grifting. Again, we find the ties between Fyre Fest 2 and Donald J. Trump. Imagine that, grifting. Huh, who would have thought such a thing? Now, it's a reminder that hype doesn't equal legitimacy, and history, if ignored, has a way of repeating itself, especially when the same person is behind it. Sounds familiar for both of our stories tonight. As of tonight, there's still no clear resolution for the hundreds who have paid to attend this so-called resurrection of Fyre Fest, because even though the date has not come and gone yet, people are trying to get out, and they've been told there are no refunds. But again, that is only a matter of time before law enforcement get involved and start to sort through the catastrophe of Fyre Fest 2, or as far as that goes, the criminal charges that'll come out of Trump 2.0. So again, both stories overlapping with the biggest scams and just the developments as we bring you the latest on legal and criminal proceedings that may emerge for both of these individuals. For now, one thing is certain, that fire may have been reignited, but so have the flames of public fury. Once again, this is James Kuzno for ProPix TV in Vancouver, British Columbia. I've been your host for this quick segment of Live Chat with James at ProPix TV in Vancouver. Take care, everyone, and stay safe. Thanks for tuning in.